Hello, welcome to the Millionaire Woman Show, where we'll be discussing leadership, business, and human potential, inspiring you to live rich from the inside out. Unlock your creativity, stretch out of your comfort zone, break through your barriers, take inspired action, and achieve epic results. Now, here's your host, two-time best-selling author, speaker, and certified executive coach, Debra Kasowski.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Millionaire Woman Show where we talk about leadership, business, and human potential. I am your host, Debra Kasowski, and I'm really excited. I have a guest that I met several years ago. So excited to reconnect with Robert Mcphee, and he is the creator of Excellent Decisions Leadership Program, an author also of Manifesting for Non-Gurus, How to Quickly and Easily Attract Lasting Results. He has spent the last 15 years working in change facilitation and leadership development. Previously, he collaborated with Jack Canfield, the creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul book series, as the director of training for the Canfield Training Group. Robert honed his practical leadership strategies, serving as an executive in a variety of large companies and partnering with a number of entrepreneurial ventures. Robert's first endeavor after graduating from the University of California in San Diego was a summer job that he and his partner built into a company with 400 employees and millions of dollars in revenue. Please welcome to the show, Robert Mcphee.
Aw, it's always funny to have people reading a bio. You know, I feel like even though we haven't seen each other in a while, we have this personal connection, and then it just doesn't come through in the bio, you know?
It's like, hey, Robert, give me a hug.
But I also love listening to it. It's like, wow, I did do all that stuff. Great way to start my day, remembering all of that. So thank you.
Yeah, you've done some really amazing stuff.
Yeah, you know, they say we should start our day with gratitude. And when I think about especially in the context of work, the people that I've had the opportunity to work with and learn from really has just been an incredible blessing. You mentioned Jack Canfield, who I worked with for many years, who's one of the true pillars in this world, and one of the people who is teaching amazing work, but also really practices what he preaches. You know, you peek behind the curtain and you see he lives his life really in alignment with the principles he teaches. And through him, I've just connected with so many other amazing people, which is part of what I love so much about this whole journey of doing this work. Jack
actually wrote the foreword for my first book with Charmaine Hammond called GPS, Your Best Life. And I think I don't know if it had just come out at the time that we met, because I know Jack was at the eWomen Network conference when we first met. And he has always been a mentor of mine because I've gone through his Success Principles coaching program as well years ago. And I think you were still part of that at that time too.
Yeah, I worked with him when he was first developing his Train the Trainer program, because part of what he's working on now is really leaving a legacy. He got so wrapped up in the whole Chicken Soup for the Soul work that it kind of took him off course a little bit from his core work, which is that Success Principles work that you mentioned. And now he really wants to make sure that work continues. So he's in a lot of different ways, online, live sessions, training people to teach that work. And I actually helped him create the original Train the Trainer program. So.
And that's really exciting, Robert, because you actually left part of your legacy in there as well. And the richness of that program does have a lot to do with the work that you've done.
Jack reached out to me. One of the things I do is facilitate mastermind groups. And one of the chapters in the Success Principles is about mastermind groups. And gosh, I don't even know when the original version of Success Principles came out. It was probably late 90s or early 2000s. And he was doing an update, and he reached out to me to ask if I would work with him on redoing the Mastermind chapter. And I went and looked at it and went, oh my God, this is so old. It's so dated. I was like, I'd love to work with you on it. And we literally, actually I, for the most part, literally went through and took all the things that I had worked with him on and some outside stuff and literally rewrote the whole chapter. So he put a really nice acknowledgement in the book for me about, you know, if you're interested in masterminding, Robert Mcphee is the person you should reach out to. And I still get I get weird people reaching out to me on LinkedIn or to connect on Facebook or something. I'm like, I don't even know this person. Where did they come from? And a lot of times it's just because they read the Success Principles book and they saw my name there and they wanted to connect with me. So
yeah, it helps.
good for you for having him write that forward, because I will tell you from working with Jack, there's a lot of people that ask him to do that. I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
And he has to be really selective about the people that he does that for. So it really says something about the work that he felt you and Charmaine were doing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Robert. Since we're on the subject of masterminding, and it's one of my favorite things in the world to do, because I love to brainstorm. And when I work with people in masterminds as well, let's just dive in there. Share with me your experience about the power of being in a mastermind. And this follows in with your excellent decision-making leadership, because masterminding is a huge part of that. So tell me what pulls you to masterminding, because for me, it's the brainstorming, it's the creativity, it's the innovation.
Yeah, it's an incredible way to accelerate your results. And it does really tie into the excellent decisions approach, which is really the focus of my work right now, is helping people make excellent decisions. And the way I define excellent decisions is that it's about making your decisions based on your own vision and values, instead of all the external stress and pressure that so many of us are under in today's fast-changing, high-stress world. And where the mastermind group fits into that is, we look at the external stress and pressure, the external influences that are often influencing us so much, and for so many people on an unconscious level. When people make a conscious choice to put external influences around them in the form of a mastermind group, a group of people whose opinions and ideas and insights they really respect, it can have such an amazing impact, because they suddenly are surrounded by those external influences that are in alignment with their vision and values. If you and I decided we wanted to put together a mastermind group, we would not pick people that are out of alignment with our vision and our values. We would pick people that have a lot to contribute to us achieving what it is we really want to achieve in life. So the other thing about mastermind groups now is that they're so kind of popular, if you will, that they've kind of, people aren't even really clear, is this a mastermind group? Is that a mastermind group? And there are people out there who call things a mastermind group that, in my opinion, really aren't a mastermind group. If you've got 50 people in a group and you call it a mastermind group, for the most part, there may be mastermind groups within the mastermind group, but it's more of a teaching model at that point. And some people take a group coaching model and call it a mastermind group. But to me, the true mastermind group, where the really magical things that I see happen, is when you have a relatively small group and you have a facilitator who kind of keeps the group on track and keeps it moving and makes sure everyone's needs are met, but they're not the guru. They're not the sage from the stage at the front of the room sharing their wisdom with everyone. They are sharing their wisdom as part of the process, but they're really making the connections amongst the group and facilitating the learning that happens from one member to the next. Because if you and I are in a mastermind group and I'm leading it and the only person you ever hear from is me, then that's has some value, I like to think. But you miss out on all the value of connecting on a really deep level with the person who's sitting next to you, who has a whole different level of insight and awareness and ideas that could be just what you want to hear. And if you've been in mastermind groups, I'm sure you've seen the same thing I have, that sometimes the greatest idea, the breakthrough thinking, the oh my God, why didn't I think of that myself moment, comes from the most surprising source. You're in a high level, business mastermind with all these really successful people, and someone's husband is sitting in the back of the room reading, and he kind of raises his hand and says, I don't know if you guys have ever thought of this, but you might want to consider it. Oh my God, and so to me, masterminding is really a combination of the facilitation and creating the environment and the structure that will allow it, but really facilitating the contact and the connection and the relationships amongst the members of the group. And you could probably tell from listening to me talk about it, I love doing it, because it's just magical sometimes what happens and the impact it has on people's lives to be part of a really effective mastermind group.
Yeah. And what I've seen in masterminds that, like you said, the person that you think is the least likely source, and this is where you need to really, when you join these mastermind groups, you need to really be open. Because what I find is people come in with their judgments and think, oh, how's that person going to help me? You know, I'm way farther ahead than them or whatnot. But to go into these masterminds being open and always trusting that the people in the room are the ones who are there to serve you. It's just like when I'm having a workshop, and sometimes I think, you know, there's maybe not as many people as I want there. And I've learned from my mentors, you don't cancel it, because whoever is supposed to be in that room is going to be in that room for a reason. And you don't know who they're connected to and the experiences. And I remember years ago, I did that very thing, had a workshop. I think there was maybe 4 people. And I was like inside, I'm like, oh, they could get so much more value if I had more people in the room. And they were like, no, we get you all to ourselves.
Yeah. All of a sudden you get intimacy that's not possible if you have 50 people in the room.
Yeah. And when they got to a different position in where they were going on their journey, they checked back with me and say, Deb, we want to bring you in. I have the opportunity. I have the authority to do this now. I'm bringing you in. And we had an amazing event, over 100 women, based on a connection I made years ago, and made sure that I didn't cancel anything. And it turned
I have a coaching client right now who's headed to an event to speak, and she was all stressing out about needing to get 20 people to sign up for her program. And I was like, just take a breath and think about, what if there's just one person in that room? I think there's going to be 100 or 120 people, something like that there. I said, what if there's just one person in that room who wants to work with you, but not just work with you, but work with you on a really deep and really ongoing level, and is like your ideal client? You know, and what if you just focused on, you know, there's just one person, and her energy just like lightened up, and she opened up, and she was just like, yeah, that would be great, you know. And if she brings that stressed out energy, she's probably not even going to get one client, certainly not going to get 20. And if she just goes in knowing that there's, you know, what if there's one person here who's just the person who's meant to work with me? How wonderful would that be? And then she brings a whole different energy to the presentation.
Yeah.
So,
and the ideal client too, because often I've found in my own experiences that when you want something and say, well, I'm looking at the conversion, I want 20 people, it might be that one person who really wants to work with you, who's going to be the go-getter. And then you might have 19 that don't fit, and you're going to be chasing them. And nobody wants those clients.
Yeah, it's so true. And one of the concepts that's really at the core of my work that I feel like is so important is the concept of high intention but low attachment. And when people get to that place of, I need to get 20 clients, I have to get 20 clients, my life is not going to be complete, you know, that have to, need to, and especially in a sales or enrollment conversation, we've all been in those conversations with somebody who needs to make the sale, and it's just like, it's just gross, right? It's just so not attractive in the literal sense. Like, I'm not drawn to that person. I'm not like wanting to know more about what they do. I'm wanting to turn and run as fast as I can. And yet someone who's, you know, selling something or enrolling in something, and they have a level of passion and excitement, and they'd love to have you join, but it's really okay if you don't. Those are the people that you end up saying, I don't even understand what you're selling, but, you know, I want 2 of them. You know, like, you just get enrolled into their passion and their excitement. And to me, the key to that is gratitude. You know, if the person is getting up on stage and they have to get 20 new clients, to me, they're doomed. Like, that's just a terrible energy to bring to the stage. But if someone gets up on stage and they're truly grateful to be there and to have the opportunity to connect with these people, and they're grateful to people they already have in their practice and the work that they're blessed to be able to do, and they're just going to share about it. And then people like, I want that. I want to be a part of that. So yeah, that high intention and low attachment. And you were also, you know, talking about the mastermind group and being open to all the people that were in it. Yeah. One of the things that you hear a lot is that you should have all these people in your mastermind group that are further along the path than you are. You know, get people who are already doing what you want to do. But there's a mathematical thing involved here. Like, if everybody wants to be in a group filled with people who are already accomplishing at a level that's higher than theirs, It's like, my oldest daughter's a PhD math student. I don't need her to figure out that it can't happen. You need to be open, like you said, to receiving the feedback and the ideas and the insights from the surprising sources, from people who are on a different path than yours, or not as far along, but have that beginner's mind, that new, fresh perspective that maybe you've lost because you're further along and further into it.
So Robert, one of the things that you talked about when we were talking about the mastermind is being so clear on your core values. And when you're making these masterminds so that you have this alignment, what I want to know from you is, how did you determine your core values? And when people are looking at theirs, what can they do?
Well, I think, as I said with my Excellent Decisions work, it's really based on vision and values, and having clarity about vision and values to me is so critical. And I just don't see how people can really lead the kind of life they want to lead and attract the kind of results and have the kind of experiences they really want without having a vision which points you in the direction of what that looks like, kind of seeing into the future of what it would look like. And of values, which to me, values on the one hand are very simple, but there's a really important distinction that I find a lot of people don't pursue or don't make when they're exploring their own values. So the simple side of it to me is that to really get into your values, there's a really simple question you can either ask yourself or have someone else ask you. And the question is, what is important to you? Because to me, that's what values are. My own values are really an analysis of what's important to me. And it's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's just really from my own personal experience, from that point of view of vision and creating the kind of life and relationships and health and financial security and all those kinds of things that I want in my life. Like, what's really important to me? So it's a simple question. And you can literally, we talked about the work with Jack Canfield. One of the techniques and strategies that Jack taught me as a facilitator is something called a repeating question exercise, where you and I could be partners in an exercise, and I would go first and you would just ask me that question over and over again. And I would just answer, what's important to you? What's important to you? What's important to you? And just let it come out. Just let it brainstorm and see what shows up, and you can sort it all out later. But the distinction that I have found incredibly powerful, and again, most people I don't think really make it, and I think it's part of the confusion about values, is when you ask yourself that question, what is important to you, two things tend to show up. One is the things, I call them the nouns, that are really important to you. Like for me, when I look at my values, the number one thing is my children. I have 3 amazing children, and I have this incredible relationship with them, and it's that one thing, like I would take a bullet, and everything else takes a back seat, just I would do anything for my children. Number 2 is the planet. Like for me, I look at what's going on in the world, and being a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem is really, really important to me, because without that, I feel like we're in trouble. Like that has to be really, really important. The third thing is my own personal health. So anyway, I can go right down the list, but these are the things, like the nouns in my life that are really important to me. And then the other thing that tends to show up, and a lot of people will have you look at a list of values and pick what your values are. And I call these the adjectives, which is kind of the way you want to live your life. Like for me, there's a list of words that include love and compassion and caring and empathy that are the way I want to live my life. I actually have a vision and values statement that I review every morning and every evening. And in it is that list. And just reminding myself kind of not just what I want to be accomplishing, the nouns, I want to be contributing to the planet. I want to have great relationships with my kids. I want to have a successful business. Those are the what's. But the hows are doing it in a way where I show up as a caring and compassionate and spiritual and loving. There's a whole long list. I can't remember them all. Like that's why I have them all written down. Because I look at the list and I go, I should really cut it down to 5. Like, oh my God, how can I cut that list down? That's like, it's who I really am.
Yeah.
So if people allow themselves to ask that question, what's really important to me, and then look at it from both of those perspectives, to me it creates a tremendous amount of clarity about, first of all, where you want to put your time and attention, what you want to work on, which is not always the most important thing. Like when I'm working with coaching clients, if I was working with myself and I looked at my list of goals, or my list of values rather, working on my relationship with my kids wouldn't be the area that I would want to work on, because it's already, like, it's the most important thing. So I want to make sure I'm putting some attention on it, but it's already going really well. Like, I have these amazing relationships with my kids. I'm already very active in working on social justice issues and environmental issues in ways that I'm really pleased with. So that's not necessarily why I want to kind of do some work. Most of what I'm really focusing on right now in terms of goals is in my business. So that's like the number 5 value on my list, but it's the one where I really feel like I want to up level. I want to make a change.
Right.
So.
Right. So when you're thinking about people knowing their values, and you're very clear on your values, and I've noticed how you've built it into your morning and evening routine. So tell us a little bit about your morning and evening routine and how you have seen it set you up for your successes.
I think it's critical. Again, I look at everything now through this excellent decisions model, and in order to get to a place where you're making excellent decisions, it's really important to have that clarity of vision and values, but it's also important to be aware of kind of what your hard wiring is. So, like right now, I'm trying to make decisions that will lead to some improvements, some changes, some growth in the business and career and money area of my life. But in the meantime, I've got this hard wiring. Like, there's a reason why I'm doing things the way I'm doing them now and getting the results that I'm getting now. And that's kind of what I call the hard wiring. And to me, the value of a daily ritual is it's like changing an autopilot. And it doesn't happen overnight. I remember there's a scene in the movie, I think it's The Secret. Maybe it's What the Bleep. But anyway, it's one of those movies where they said, it's a really good thing. We don't just imagine an outcome that we want and it happens, because, everything that we imagine just happened in an instant. It would be pretty crazy. It takes time. I actually use a model where we start with the self-image, we start with the vision and values. We use that as a source to come up with new ideas, new thinking, and allow that new thinking to drive the actions that we take, the way we show up in the world. And from those actions is where our results and experiences come from. And it would be great if we just changed our self-image and the new results showed up. But the reality is it takes time. And during that time, it can be really uncomfortable. I mean, to me, the work that we're doing, you and I both, is helping people get outside their comfort zone, outside their familiarity zone, do things that are unusual and again, uncomfortable for them, so that they can create new results and new experience, create their life more the way they want it to go. And the daily ritual is like changing your autopilot, like making it so that you have new habits. I actually call it creating a new comfort zone. That model I was just talking about, built into that is that I believe a comfort zone occurs when our current beliefs about who we are, if I'm working with someone on their health and they have a belief that they're overweight, out of shape, and don't like to exercise, and they're trying to get healthy, well, that belief about who they really are is like an anchor that they're dragging behind them. So if we get them to change their belief first and see the possibility of being a healthy, fit, active, engaged, energetic person, at first that's very uncomfortable, because they, get them affirming and doing their daily visualizations and whatever, and then they look in the mirror and they go, I'm not healthy and vibrant. Look at me, I look terrible.
Yeah.
But over a period of time, if we work with that person, and again, this is the value of the mastermind and the coaching and the support and the accountability that happens with the kind of work that you and I do, over a period of time, if we keep that person focused on that new self-image, I am healthy and fit, I can do this, it's possible, I've been there before, whatever, then they do start thinking differently. They say, well, if I would just clear all that junk food out of my cabinet, that would help. And they take that action and they do that. And then they say, if I would just go for a walk 3 days a week, that would, and they start getting ideas and taking actions. And health is great because, it's pretty simple. If you move more and eat less, you're gonna get in shape pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
But what happens is that people literally create a new comfort zone over a period of time. By thinking differently and acting differently, you can create new results, and the new results will match that new self-image that was so uncomfortable when you first started. And it's super cool when one day someone wakes up and they go, I am healthy and fit. And they look in the mirror and go, wow, I really am healthy and fit.
Yeah, it matches.
Yeah. I'm not just imagining it. I'm not just visualizing it. It's actually happened. And at that point, because your self-image, matching your results is your comfort zone, you literally create a new comfort zone. And this can be true in a relationship or with your level of money, whatever it might be. When you create that new comfort zone, not all of it, because in my opinion, the hardwiring never goes away, but a lot of the resistance that shows up initially when we try to do something new, when we try to make changes, that you're not in shape or you'll never make that much money or whatever, it goes away, literally. And people don't have such a hard time, it's great. We know all these people that lose weight. Yeah, they've lost hundreds of pounds because they lose 20 and they gain it back, and they lose 20 and they gain it back.
Yeah.
And I admit to being biased, but I believe that self-image, that vision and values question is really right at the core of it. So,
definitely.
Did I ever share with you the prosperity game that I facilitate?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't know when you're going to make this live. I have one starting in just like 2 weeks, but it's a game that I facilitate online where every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 4 weeks, I send out an email to the participants. And in the email is a check, like there's a picture of a check.
Yeah.
And the game is played by clicking through to a private Facebook page and answering 2 questions. One is, where did this money come from? Did I find it? Did I earn it? Did someone give it to me? Whatever. I could win it in a lottery.
And
whatever
is it all
you choose.
different amounts on these checks?
Well, that's the kicker. So the first question is, where did it come from? And then the second question is, what am I going to do with it? You can spend it, you can invest it, you can give it away, whatever you want. So you get to choose. And you kind of, spoiler alert, you got the punchline, because every time I send out a message, the amount of the check doubles.
Cool.
So people, what happens is, we talk about that comfort zone issue. We all have like a comfort zone around money, right? Like,
yeah.
I earn this much and I'm stretching myself to try and earn this much. But this game, I won't tell you the actual numbers, but because if anyone wants to play, they can just go to my website and click on events, and the prosperity game is there, and it's free. And for me, it's a great way for people to get an experience of, first of all, their own self-imposed limitations around money and how they play that game called money in a really safe and fun kind of environment. And it's also a way for people to get to know me. They have the chance to interact with me because I play along every time I facilitate the game. I play along with them and I give feedback. Every one of those messages I send out, I share a little insight about how to get the most value from playing the game. And then people, it's a great opportunity for me because people get a sense of kind of who I am and what I do and how I do it. And I end up, with people who want to work with me because of it. But that comfort zone, it's such a powerful thing, and it's so magical because in the context of this prosperity game, everyone at some point in the game, sometimes it's pretty early. I mean, I've had people, a check for $4,000 and they're freaking out. Like, where would that even come from? And again, I won't tell you the numbers, but $4,000 is early in the game. So we start, with a few $100s, and then it doubles and doubles and doubles and gets to be a really big number.
Well, I want to play.
Yeah, you should just, again, you can just go to my website. There's an events tab. It directs you to the tab, the page to sign up. And again, it's completely free. I do it just as a way. It's like my 2 things. One, it's a way to give back. I wish I could charge for it, but there's a real funny paradox. It's this opportunity for people to break through all their money limitations. But I charge, I've done it and charged $20 and nobody signs up. I'm like, oh my God, really? Like, this could totally change your whole, attitudes and beliefs and perspective of money and break you through to a whole different level. And you won't spend $20 to play. So for me, the best way to do it is just do it for free and share it and have it be a way for people to get to know me.
Well, we're going to go take this live on Tuesday. So they have 2 weeks before you roll it out to get people signed up.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
So what is today? Is today the 15th or?
Yeah. So it's going to go live on the 9th.
So we're starting a week from Monday. We start on June 25th. But even if someone hears about this and, it could be weeks or months later, I do this usually once a quarter. And so there's usually one coming up. And the other thing is, even if someone's hearing about this game, you know, the day we're starting or a couple of days later, I always let people join during the first week. After the first week is complete, you know, the people are into the game and it's kind of got some momentum, and I don't want people to kind of jump on a moving train. But if people are hearing about this, you know, up until, what would it be, July 1st would be the last day people would be able to sign up.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, come play. It'll be fun. It's super fun.
I'm going to play
too. Yeah.
I'm going to play. It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
So the other thing that when you mentioned when we were talking about the masterminds and the core values, and it's that accountability piece.
Mm-hmm.
So why do people avoid accountability? You know, we say that, you know, I'm accountable, I take ownership, but accountability and responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
they often are used interchange. So I just want to get your take on that.
Yeah, and I do think accountability and responsibility kind of go together. We talked about the work that I did with Jack Canfield and his Success Principles book, and the number one principle in that book is taking 100% responsibility. And it's always part of what I teach. You know, all this other conversation, I believe, is pretty much a waste of time unless people are willing to take 100% responsibility. Because at some point, you know, in order to create a new result, you do have to take action. And at some point, the only thing preventing you from taking a different kind of action is that person you see in the mirror every morning, you know, and the willingness to just accept responsibility for what's happened to you up to this time in your life and what's going to happen moving forward. To me, moving forward is even more important. The whole conversation about personal responsibility for what's already happened, especially when we see some of the horrible things we see in the world with abuse and that type of thing. And you know, it's not that it's someone else's fault, but the issue of responsibility gives us the opportunity to move forward beyond whatever has happened up until now. The ability, I mean, Jack teaches it as literally, you know, the events in your life, you have the choice of how to respond to them, and whatever you choose will determine the outcomes that happen from here forward. So, you know, whatever situations or circumstances have happened or are happening in your life, the point of power is that we can choose how to respond. And then accountability, and I love the connection that you made between the two, because accountability from someone else in your life who you really trust takes it to a whole different level, because you can make a commitment. I have a good friend, Scott Cody, who developed a leadership program for NASA, who's one of my mentors and teachers. And he says goals are a waste of time, that you need to make commitments. And commitments are only measured, you know, whether or not you're committed has nothing to do with what you say or how you say it or your tone of voice or your posture or anything else. It has to do with whether you're taking action. So if you tell me you're committed to doubling your income, I can check back in with you in a week and find out whether you're committed. Because if you were, you know, eating bonbons and updating your website and checking your Facebook page all week, then you're not committed. And that's fine. That's your choice. But, you know, commitments are only measured by action. And when people are willing to bring in outside accountability, it's like taking that concept of responsibility and up-leveling it. You know, now, and there's just something about human nature that we're more likely to do something if we've made a commitment, not just to ourselves, but to someone else. Said, I'm going to do this. You know, if you're, again, I love health examples because the what to do is so simple. If I make a commitment to go to the gym, that's one thing. But if I make a commitment to go to the gym and I ask you to be my accountability partner and meet me at the gym 3 days a week and be my workout partner, now when the alarm goes off and it's time to go to the gym, and I know that you're going to be there waiting for me, there's just a reality to the fact that I'm more likely to go. And so, you know, I think accountability is so important. And again, the whole comfort zone thing, you know, when the alarm goes off and you got to get out of bed and, you know, you don't really want to go to the gym, that's the uncomfortable part. And the way to kind of shift that over time is to get into the habit of getting up and going to the gym. And if you have a really good accountability partner, someone who you really don't want to let down, who's going to be part of that process, especially at the beginning when you're starting to establish that new habit, it can get you over the hump and get you to accomplish things that you just otherwise wouldn't accomplish. Do you know who Mel Robbins is?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I was just introduced to her work a few months ago, and I'm like a raving fan. A good friend of mine who's in network marketing has been very successful. And she was coming back from this conference with her sister, and I was asking her how it went. And she said, oh, it was fabulous. We had so much fun, and we met all these amazing people, and we're on fire about our business. And
Yeah.
Mel Robbins was amazing. And I was like, Mel Robbins? Who is that, like Tony Robbins' brother or something? Like, I had no idea who that was.
Yeah.
Turns out he's a she, first of all. I don't know if it's Melinda or Melissa or whatever her full name is, but Mel Robbins is a she. And I just love her work about, this 5-second rule that she teaches, which is a whole other conversation. You should call her up and have her as a guest. But it's all built on the fact that our mind, trying to keep us safe from these incredibly dangerous things that we're faced with today, like going to the gym, right? Anything that's new and different and uncomfortable, the mind feels like we're in danger. And within 5 seconds, we'll start trying to talk us out of it. Oh no, don't do that. Don't make those sales calls. Don't go to the gym. Don't have that difficult conversation about your relationship. That's dangerous. You could really, and it's crazy. Like, those are the things we need to do to live the life we really want to live. So if you have that accountability to get through and have something to at least compete with that mind kicking in and automatically trying to talk you out of it, to me, that's the real power of it.
Yeah. It's that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And it really
it's so cool. It's like, if anybody's listening that hasn't heard of Mel Robbins, it's M-E-L and Robbins like Tony. I just Googled her. Like, I was like, who's Mel Robbins? And I totally trust this woman who I was talking to. I was like, oh, if she loved him and thought he was great, that's what I was thinking at the time. Oh, he's a she. How about that? But I watched this video of her being interviewed and sharing her story and her approach, and I was just like, that's brilliant. It's like, I literally, like, right here in front of my computer, I have this little card. It says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is part of her strategy for making decisions and getting into action. And it's really so simple. I love simplicity. I don't want to make anything like really difficult and complicated. I just want it to be simple, get right into action. So anyway, I just love that. And it's a form of accountability on some level.
Yeah, absolutely. Accountability to yourself. Because I find that those commitments, what happens is we'll commit to so many other people. But we don't value those same commitments to ourselves that we need, like going to the gym. Somebody might pick up the phone and say, hey, you're free. They look at their calendar space is empty. And they have this to-do list that's long right beside their desk that they haven't put the to-dos in their calendar. And then they're like, oh, I got lots of time. I can cancel that. It's not a big deal. And all of a sudden they wonder why they're not getting the results that they want. Yeah. Because they don't have the same commitment to themselves.
Exactly. And, we talked about the vision and values work, and it becomes even more tragic on some level for someone who really has done the vision and values work, and they're really clear about what's really important to them and then their vision, and they become more likely to get into action, but they're still faced with, like you said, all the commitments that other people are trying to push on them and all the external influences and, the media and the social media and the friends and the family and the boss and the coworkers and all that don't just go away when we decide to clarify our vision and values. And without structure in place, without having support systems in place, without having accountability and having encouragement and other forms of support, even with real clear vision and values, I mean, that helps, but even with real clear vision and values, it's still really hard. Like, again, those external influences and stresses and demands don't just go away because we decided to clarify our vision and values.
Well, let's go there. Let's talk about how those external pressures and other influences influence the decisions that we make.
Well, again, the model that I teach ideally starts with your self-image determining the way you think and then the way you act and the results that show up in your life, and the degree to which we can go through life with really clear vision and values and what's important to us, and have that determine the way we think and therefore the way we act and therefore the results we get. It sounds really simple, but this thing about external influences is what complicates it in a huge way. First of all, we live in a world where it's not just one influence. I mean, again, it's friends, it's family, it's your boss, your coworkers, the media, social media, advertising, radio, television. It's like, we're completely bombarded by all these external influences. And I like to use the example of advertising to kind of help people understand what I'm talking about, because advertising is designed fully understanding this model about the way we think determines the way we act, which determines the results we get. Advertising is designed to get us to think in a certain way. It gets us to see images in our mind and think a certain way, intending to get us to act a certain way, buy that product, do what they're asking us to do, which creates a result, no question about it, but it creates a result that's good for them, you know, the company that's advertising. So, you know, beautiful women in bikinis holding beer, you know, buy beer, you know, create result for them called sell beer, but create result for me called not very productive and don't feel too good in the morning, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
so, you know, being aware, one of the reasons I love to teach this model is people who never really looked at it through this lens suddenly understand why they've continued to struggle with money, why they've continued to struggle with their health, why they go from one dysfunctional relationship to another, because they have a self-image. Like if you want to know what your current self-image is, it's pretty darn easy. You just look at what your current results are. If you're making $100,000 a year, chances are you have a $100,000 a year self-image. And if you want to double your income, I believe the place to start is double your self-image. You know, think of yourself as a $200,000 a year person. What would that look like? What would I have to do differently? What are the actions I would need to take? You're going to get these, you know, and it sounds simple. Meanwhile, your friends, your family, all the people around you are used to you being a $100,000 a year person. And if you double your income, it's going to make them very uncomfortable because they haven't doubled their income. So it's kind of in their best interest to get you to just tone it down a little bit here, Deborah. You know, you don't need to be going 200,000 because then I'm only making 50 and I'm not going to feel great if you're making 200. So those external influences are just trying to, like your mind, you know, just keep everything status quo. We'd all be much happier and much more comfortable if you didn't change, because every time you change, it makes us feel like we need to change, you know, and everyone gets all kind of freaked out. So being aware of that, it gives you the power to say, thank you for your feedback, and I'm doubling my income anyway, because that's my vision, that's my values, that's what's important to me. Like in my case, if I double my income, the money doesn't mean anything. You know, the money in and of itself, you know, 100,000, 200,000, $1 million, it doesn't mean anything. But if I look at what I can do for my kids, which are number one on my values list, if I look at how much more I can do for the planet, for social justice issues, for the environment, you know, if I have twice as much money, like Jim Rohn, who's one of my favorite kind of business philosophers, said more money will make you more of who you really are. So if you're someone like me who loves his kids and is really concerned about the planet and is committed to his own health, if I double my own income, I can do more in all those areas. So the money itself is like, you know, more money, you know, what does that do? If I'm a jerk who doesn't care about anybody else and is just totally selfish and, you know, wants to go out drinking every night, double my income and see what happens to me. You know, I can drink more. I can be even more mean than I was before, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's super important to have that level of awareness of how first of all, what your external influences are. Who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with? You know, how many hours of television are you watching? What channel are you listening to on the radio when you're driving or whatever? You know, somebody turns off the news channel and starts listening to audiobooks. That's an external influence. And one external influence will push you in one direction. The other one will push you in a different direction. So being aware of that and making choices about what the external influences are going to be in your life is one of the really powerful ways to accelerate the results you want.
Yeah. I love, you know, I was just thinking here, Robert, that, you know, I started off by saying, hey, how are those questions I sent you? And we have not even really used those questions at all. And this is so completely organic and I'm loving every minute of it.
Good. Yeah. Well, we did talk about not sticking with the script.
Exactly.
We had an agreement. So, and like we talked about ahead of time, you know, I come from a very kind of left brain structured, organized, you know, wanting everything all planned out kind of background. But, you know, you hang around with people like Jack Canfield long enough and you learn about intuition and meditation and trusting your instincts and things like that. And I mean, I've been blessed because of the work that I do and the people that I've been connected with. I've been on both sides of this conversation. I've done a lot of interviewing, which I love to do. I love to be in your seat. But I also love to be interviewed. I love to share, what I've had the opportunity to learn and what I'm working on now and all that. And the very best interviews I've ever done are the ones where, today we didn't even start with the first question. Usually we start with the first question on the list and see where it leads, but we just went off on a tangent from the start.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, like, I've got the questions here, but I think if we look at the questions, we'll see that we've covered a lot of the things that we wanted to talk about, just not in the order that we intended to talk about them.
No, not at all.
And it's a really good example. I talked about high intention and low attachment, and part of that is also not worrying about how. Like you and I haven't even talked to each other in a long time, and I don't know kind of where you even like pulled me back up and said, hey, I feel called. I'm guessing it was like an intuitive thing. You came across me and said, hey, I want to have Robert as a guest on
our friend Teresa Degropa.
There you go.
Reminded us that we needed
the great connector. She's so awesome. So yeah, like there was something in you, and you've done a lot of work, I know. So intuitively, Teresa said, oh, you should talk to Robert, and you got a yes on that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Teresa could have suggested someone else, and you would have said, thanks for the suggestion, but I'm not feeling it. I don't really feel like that's it.
Exactly.
And that's where, to me, that's where the really magical things happen. We just allow the conversation to evolve the way it's supposed to evolve and stay connected to the people we're supposed to be connected to. And now you're going to be playing the prosperity game with me, so we're still going to be connected. It's going to be awesome.
I do have one question that I want you to tell us about your book, that Manifesting for the Non-Gurus, how to quickly and easily attract those lasting results. So, you know, we hear a lot about manifestation, and my closest thing to that the other day is I was in Calgary visiting, so I don't know the area very well. I was coming into town. I was looking that I was going to go to the gym, and it said, this gym closes in 40 minutes. I'm like, well, that's not enough. I'm not even there yet. So then I looked at the next gym, and it said, okay, it's downtown. I get downtown Calgary. I'm driving in circles around Stevens Avenue to go to this Good Life Fitness there. And I'm driving around, and I'm sitting behind this lights, and there's this construction area. There's 2 cars in front of me. And finally, I just put my hands in the air and I said, okay, if you want me to go to the gym, get me a parking stall, because this is driving me crazy. And not sooner did the light turn green, the 2 cars moved ahead. The other car pulled out of his parking stall. And I was like, all right, that was a sign. So off to the gym I went. I was like, man, I need to do that more often. But I would like to know about how you do it.
Well, it's interesting. And I think it was before we actually hit the record button, we were talking a little bit about my book. And my book came out in 2010. And it was right when I was actually transitioning out of the work that I was doing with Jack. So the work in my book kind of mirrors Jack's work in some ways. But it was really intended to take a book like The Success Principles, that's 64 principles and 450 pages or something like that. And my book is just a little book. And it's intentional, because I feel like in today's world, we're all so busy. If you look at The Success Principles, which is like the size of the Bible, and it's on the table, you go, oh my, when am I ever going to have time to read that? And my intention was to create a book that would be sitting on the table or the kitchen counter or the nightstand or whatever, and someone would look at it and go, oh, I could read that. It's just a little book. So it's really intended to kind of distill the essence of the really core foundational principles. And the idea with the title, Manifesting for Non-Gurus, was that manifesting is attracting the results that we really want in our life. Sometimes, like your parking story is a great example. Sometimes it feels like it happens really magically, but there were some things that led up to that, and there was some intention that led up to that, and it wasn't really just magical. And the true magical thinking, manifesting, I really don't believe that it works that way. Again, there's an action component. You had to get up that morning, you had to put on your workout clothes, you had to get in your car, you had to drive over there, and those are, to me, the action steps that lead up to. And my guess is that if that wasn't the parking spot that opened up, there would have been another one shortly after that, because now that's what you're looking for. That's what your awareness is tuned into. You're looking, in a different way, like looking for a parking spot. Like, I need to find a parking spot. I have to find a parking spot. That's when, you just passed one and you didn't see it and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But what you described was actually a really great example of high intention and low attachment. like to the point where your low attachment was like, screw it. If I don't find a parking place, I'm not going to work out. That's it. That's no attachment, right? That's literally unattached. Like I'm not going to. And in all of our, like, think about relationships. When someone really needs to be in a relationship, like if you're single and you're looking to meet people and you meet someone who really needs to be in a relationship, I have to find somebody. That is the most like unattractive, gross like thing. You just want to get away from that person. But if someone's really like intending, they're open to being in a relationship, but they have no need, they have no attachment, they're just waiting for the right person to come along. Those are the people that are like, oh my God, can I just hang out with you? Like, I don't, you know, like I want to be a part of what you're doing. So the idea of manifesting was, you know, kind of the magical thinking is what it sounds like, but my experience is that it's very practical. And then the non-gurus part of it was, you know, here I am, I'm not a guru. You know, I'm not somebody who went to India and lived in a cave for 20 years and walks around wearing an orange robe and chanting mantras. I'm just a normal guy. But I believe that just normal people can learn simple strategies for how to attract more of the results they want in their lives, do it in ways that are not so difficult and take so long, and do it in a way that the results actually last. And the model that we touched on a couple of times with, you know, your self-image leads to the way you think and the way you act and the results that show up in your life, to me, that's the process of manifestation. It's getting really clear about what it is you do want and the kind of life you do want to live, and what you're going to give in return for attracting that into your life, and being open to new ideas and letting go of the attachment and taking action. And that's where, you know, the parking space magically opens up, where you wake up one day and you have a big new client, or you lost 20 pounds or whatever it is. It's just doing that process over and over again. And I actually created a journal that went along with my book, kind of because of the things we talked about earlier with accountability and with kind of sticking with it and having a daily ritual. The idea was to have people sit down and do a journal entry every day to reconnect to what it is that's really important to them, and the possibility of creating it and why it's important to them, and going through a process to let go of any attachments that show up, and finish that journal entry with, what are my actions? Like, what are the specific actions I'm going to take today? So people were reading the book and using the journal, and I was getting all this great feedback and everything. But like I told you before we hit the record button, I tell people 4 years of, you know, clever title, manifesting for non-gurus, but horrible brand. Like for my business, you know, when I go out and I want to work with entrepreneurs and leaders and organizations, and I hand them over a copy of a book that says manifesting for non-gurus, like their eyes roll back in their head, and it's like, I don't know who you are, dude, but you know, we're a business, like we got stuff to do. I'm not about manifesting, and I don't need a new guru. So I literally, like right now, I have my book right here, but I don't have one of the stickers that I use, but I had stickers made that say excellent decisions. And if I'm in a meeting with a client and I'm sharing my book, I take the sticker out of the inside of the book and I peel the back off, and I put the sticker right on the front of the book, and just retitle my book right in front of their face, because it's the same content, it's the same message.
Yes.
And it really is practical. I mean, you can tell from listening to me, I'm not Mr. Magical Thinking. You know, I'm not going to tell people to go home and sit on their couch and meditate a certain way and light enough candles and chant the right mantra and whatever, and all their dreams are going to come true. Like, you got to take action. We got to get in the game. But it didn't really come through in the title. So that's why I've had to change.
Definitely about getting in the game. Thanks for telling us a little bit about it. And I know we've come pretty much close to the end of our interview. So I wanted to let the audience know how they can stay in touch with you and be a part of this prosperity game that I'm going to join in.
Yeah, please join us. It's super fun. Like I said, it's free. It just takes a few minutes to play. But if anyone has money issues in their life, if they kind of resonate with that idea that the main thing getting in our way in terms of getting to a higher level of abundance and opening up to new possibilities in the area of money, is our own beliefs and attitudes about money and about work and about, you know, what's possible. This game is a really fun way to explore that and get some really powerful insights. And the best way to either connect to play the game or just to connect with me is just to go to my website, which is excellentdecisions.com. Decisions is plural. And for the prosperity game, there's an events tab, and my contact information is at the bottom of every page. And, if people are interested, if you want to connect with me, I'm not one of these people who has 12 gatekeepers between me and the people that are trying to reach out to me. If what we talked about today resonates with you and you want to know more about the work that I do and whether it's a good fit for you, just give me a call or send me an email. We can set up a time to do a consultation. I can learn more about you and you can learn more about me, and we can see if it's a good fit. I do coaching and consulting. I call my coaching transformational coaching now. I finally found a label for it that I feel like really fits well. And the idea of transformation for me is, one, kind of sharing information. A lot of today's conversation is about sharing information. But then there's a second stage called putting together a new plan, a new strategy. Like, what am I going to do differently? And then the third step of transformation that you brought up a lot today, which I love, is the follow-up. It's having the accountability in place. It's having someone or many people who are really encouraging you and supporting you along the way while you're working towards creating those new habits and new comfort zones. So yeah, I'd love to connect with people in your community and help them in any way I can. So the website's the best way to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. What would be one final word of wisdom, since the theme is pretty much accountability and masterminding? So what would be your final words of wisdom for our audience?
Wow, I was a little intimidated by that question, but I'm glad you went on a little bit and gave me a chance to think about it, because something, and this is a really good example too, because that's a question that I kind of wasn't ready for. And anytime somebody says what's one word, I go into that whole thing oh my God, what if I picked the wrong one? I'm right, it's like your soulmate or something, but then just having the awareness and having done the amount of work that I've done, I recognize that thinking in my head and I go, oh, shut up, take a breath, relax for a second. And in doing that, what came to me is a really important one. And I'm really glad you asked me, because what I really do, I believe, is help people thrive. And that's what I would want to do. That's what I want to help you do with your people is create an environment for people where they really feel like they're thriving. And thriving to me, this is so cool because I'm going to get to share something that I really wanted to share. So thriving to me is really simple. It's achieving at a really high level, doing amazing things, making a lot of money and having great relationships and being really healthy and all those things, achieving at a really high level, which I think as human beings we're all driven to do. But also doing it in a way that we're truly happy. To me, one of the most sad things is when you see someone who's achieving at a really high level, they have it all going on, but they're miserable. They're not happy. Their relationships are falling apart, or their health is falling apart. They're making a lot of money and doing the deals and whatever. So to me, it has to be a balance. And that's what thriving is. I want to help people truly thrive, which is, again, achieve at a really high level, but also be truly happy. And the piece that I learned, gosh, it's probably a couple of years ago now, but I repeat it over and over again, is about the definition of what truly happy really means, right? Because happiness kind of gets a bad rap. It's kind of like manifesting, I'm a happiness coach. How well would that resonate? Yeah. But I think happiness is what we all really want. And I had the chance to get to know a guy named Sean Acor. I don't know if you've ever heard of Sean. He's a positive psychology guy. And I was doing some work with a company that he was affiliated with. And through familiarizing myself with his work, he uses the ancient Greek definition of happiness, which is the experience of joy while in pursuit of our potential.
Very nice.
And if there's one thing that I really want for my clients, if there's one thing that I really want for my kids, there's one thing I really want for myself, that just hit me right in the heart. That's what I want. I want the experience of joy, but I don't want it to be oh, I just went bankrupt and I'm still smiling. I want it to be I'm in pursuit of my potential. I'm doing what I'm here to do, and I'm doing it in a way that is the experience of joy. So you asked me for one word. I gave you a lot more than one word. But that connection between thriving and really getting what true happiness is, that's the outcome that I'm looking for my kids, for my clients, and for myself.
Well, Robert, I'm grateful for our interview today, and I know you've left us many nuggets. And for our audience, whether they're on YouTube watching us or listening on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud, they're going to have them thinking and leaving that seed planted about masterminds, accountability, really stepping up your daily rituals. And one of the greatest things that I like when you talk about the prosperity game is really don't let other people hold you to a standard that they want you to keep you at. When you see yourself at that $200,000, keep yourself there and keep your standards high. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how you are a product of your expectations. So if you lower those expectations, you lower what you're going to be producing. So if you keep your standards high, you're going to produce high. So I'd rather be in the high side than reduce any expectations to meet someone else's lower standard.
Absolutely. Yeah, and those expectations are so critical. It's a great question. Like something happens and it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, and someone says, well, what did you expect?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great question.
Let's think about that. And
I shared that. Most of the time, the results do match what we really expect. I mean, my youngest daughter's in school at Stanford, and when they hang around that place, people have a different level of expectations for what's going to happen in their life than if you hang out at the corner bar. You know, they expect to achieve at a really high level, because that's just what people at Stanford do.
And also, I'm going to attach to that, Robert, which I think you're going to really like, because I shared that concept with someone and they said, even though there's expectation, I also am a product of my intention. Mm-hmm. So it really ties in that high intention, right?
Yeah, so you and I could we could make we do the first 4-week podcast if we keep going.
I know. We will never end this podcast. And I know
but wait, one more thing.
They could be driving in the car. We are going to wrap this up so you can get back to whatever you're needing to do in your life. Listen to us again. I'm wanting to, again, thank you, Robert, for joining us on the Millionaire Woman Show, where we talk about leadership, business, and human potential. And we'd love for you to go over to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, write us a review, give us a 5-star high five if it resonates with you, of course, and send us some ideas. If you want to comment or share something about the show that we've had today, please pop me an email, send Robert an email. Let us know how you enjoyed the show so that we can continue to serve others. As Muhammad Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And my wish for you, as always, is go out and make today great. Have a great day, everyone.